You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Cary Junior II. Cemeteries are the last place one might look for things to do over the weekend. But if you appreciate reflection and history over busy bars and music, Elmwood all night at the historic Elmwood Cemetery in Detroit might be the thing to do this weekend. Amy Elliott Bragg is the director of the Historic Elmwood Foundation. She joins me now to discuss the two-night event happening at Elmwood Cemetery this weekend. Amy, welcome to the Metro.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I think is it Elmwood Alight?
Elmwood Alight is what we're calling it. Yeah.
Got it. Elmwood Alight. So paint us a picture of Elmwood Alight. What can attendees expect if they go? Because I hear cemetery and I don't think fun.
Yeah, well, especially after dark, right? It doesn't sound like a place you want to be.
Not too far away from Halloween either.
Exactly. But we have not designed this to be a scary experience or even a spooky or creepy experience in any way. When you walk into Elmwood Alight, you'll approach and enter through our beautiful Gothic gatehouse, and we'll check you in. And before you, our beautiful historic grounds will unfold in front of you. It does get very dark in the cemetery when the sun goes down, but we'll be illuminating a path through the cemetery with a beautiful lighting installation for you to take in and enjoy.
I see. So that experience will have some lights. Will have sounds as well?
Yeah, there'll be sort of ambient music throughout the grounds just to sort of set the mood. Again, we're looking for to offer sort of a reflective and wondrous experience. But when you get to our chapel building, we will have music from Midtown Strings playing a violin and a cello, I believe is the combination. So live music as well, and a chance to sort of take in the scenery and the mood of the cemetery. It'll be really special, I think.
Now, for the families of the people who are in that cemetery, what have they said about this event?
Well, we've mostly heard great feedback from our community. We used to do a tree lighting event at the end of the year during the holiday season, and we would invite our families to come in and sort of, think about, have a chance to honor the loved ones that they may have lost in the previous year. So this was sort of our reimagination of the tree lighting event on a broader scale, but we still want to make it welcoming for community members who may have lost a loved one, maybe this year, maybe in previous years, who are part of our community of families. And so far, people seem to be really excited to come check it out. Okay,
there's no concerns that they would be like, hey, these lights and whistles, I'm here to, mourn my loved one.
Right. I haven't heard any yet, and I hope that folks will kind of appreciate the spirit of what we're trying to do.
Now, the cemetery is over 150 years old, which means there's a lot of history there. Mm-hmm. What's one of your favorite bits about history in this place that makes it so special?
Well, I think that obviously there are so many, notable historic figures buried at Elmwood. There are a lot of very old monuments and works of memorial art at Elmwood going back to the 1830s and 40s. But I think that one thing that I think is really special about Elmwood is the landscape and the history of the landscape. Elmwood was a really early work of landscape architecture in Detroit. It's a beautiful natural setting along the banks of what is known as Bloody Run Creek. Has kind of a morbid name, but an interesting history. It's an old ghost stream in Detroit, actually, that used to run through the whole city, and now Elmwood is the only place where you can see it. But the original trustees of the cemetery really designed the cemetery and laid it out to sort of showcase Bloody Run and the topography of the cemetery, which is quite hilly, unlike other parts of the city. So the landscape, the thought that was put into the landscape in, the mid-19th century and the beautiful old mature trees all make for a setting, I think, that is really special and unique in Detroit, both in terms of its history and the experience that you have when you come to enjoy it.
There's not too many hilly places we get here. I don't know how hilly. This is not hike hilly, is it?
No, it's not hike hilly. There are some places where you'll gain a little bit of a view over the cemetery, but yeah, you won't be getting a serious ascent.
Yeah, and Elmwood is an active cemetery. There will still be people buried there now, but having been there for so long, is there a point in the near future where there won't be any more room? Is it filling up?
It is filling up. Yeah, that is something that we are thinking about. The window keeps changing because burial trends are changing. And, we have more space than we used to. I always tell people when I started doing tours at Elmwood about 10 years ago, I heard that we had about 10 more years of active burial at Elmwood. I now work there 10 years later, and I have heard that we have about 10 more years to go. So, and if you actually, one of my favorite things about art history is that if you look back at the 1880s and 1890s, our trustees are talking then about the fact that we're running out of space. So, Elmwood has always been running out of space, but Elmwood Elite is part of a bigger effort for us to think about the future of the cemetery. There will come a day, and it's not too long in the future, where we will run out of space, and we need to think about how people engage with Elmwood after that. Obviously, we hope that people will still be coming to visit their loved ones and tend their family lots, but we also want people to think of Elmwood as a green space that is open for them to enjoy, to come take a walk, to spend time in nature, and to hopefully participate in programming that our foundation will continue to produce. And I think Elmwood Elite is our first really big swing at that.
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Cary Junior II. My guest is Elliott Bragg. She's the director of the historic Elmwood Foundation. This weekend is Elmwood Elite, a guided tour that casts the historic cemetery into a new light. I think this programming is really fascinating, Amy, because I don't often personally, and I don't often hear about other folks recreationally going to cemeteries. It's typically an intentional, you're going to mourn, you're going to remember someone you once lost. The idea that you all are taking this place, adding, installing lights, and you've made it reflective too. It's not a party, it doesn't sound like. It's not something that would potentially be disrespectful to families of loved ones there. It's a different approach. I guess I'm wondering, had you heard of this before from another cemetery that inspired this?
Yeah, we definitely pay attention to what cemeteries like Elmwood are doing around the country. There are a couple of other events similar to Elmwood Elite at other historic cemeteries. There's one in Atlanta at the Oakland Cemetery called Illumine. They do that in the spring. And then Mount Auburn, which is actually the oldest, what's called a rural cemetery. That's the kind of model of cemetery that Elmwood is. Mount Auburn was the first rural cemetery in the United States, and they do a big event similar to this around the solstice. They actually call it solstice. So we were looking around for inspiration from our peers in other cities, and we're sort of doing it in an Elmwood way, I think. It's also tied to our anniversary. Obviously, people have said to me, like, well, it's in October. Why would you do it so close to Halloween if you didn't want it to be spooky? But Elmwood was actually founded in October of 1846. Our anniversary is October 8th. So we sort of designed it to be a celebration of our history as well as something fun to do in the fall.
This is, it sounds like, as you're saying, a way to kind of reimagine the use of cemeteries, how we use space in cemeteries. Can you just talk about that a little bit more? Why it is important that we spend time there for more than just kind of those initial moments, for the mourning moments, but understand that it is a space where we can go and reflect.
Sure. I mean, something I think is useful to know about the history of cemeteries like Elmwood is that they were designed, maybe not for, our trustees probably didn't imagine large-scale lighting installations, but they did think of Elmwood as a place where people could not only mourn their loved ones, but also have a place to escape from the city, right? It was a time when Detroit was becoming more industrial and populous and maybe a little crowded and maybe a little dirty, and you wanted to go somewhere where you could breathe. And this was a time before large-scale public parks and green spaces like Belle Isle or Palmer Park. Those places didn't exist yet, and Elmwood provided a place for people to go and take a walk among ancient trees or sit by the creek banks and really just have a place of respite. So the cemetery was always designed to be used for people to enjoy in that way. I think that it's again, it's sort of a historical treasure of landscape architecture, of all of the history that we have within our gates. And we're just looking for ways for people to appreciate that. We're also a certified arboretum, real haven of wildlife in the city and nature. So in my opinion, and I'm a little biased because I work at a historic cemetery, but I really think that there are a lot of different ways to experience a place like Elmwood, whether you're interested in the nature or you just want a place to walk and take a break, if you're interested in the history, if you're curious about the monuments. Like, there's just a lot of jumping off points of a place like Elmwood that you can take once you sort of take a breath and walk through the gates into a cemetery, if that's the kind of place where you don't normally feel like you feel very comfortable. So,
going.
Yeah.
Is the terrain landscape, is that something that may inspire how you all have another installation or event going forward? Now you have the lights, but I'm wondering if that landscape will play a role.
Yeah, I think it will always play a role in what we do, and we're always sort of thinking about how we care for that landscape going forward. That involves sort of maintenance projects that aren't super sexy, like we did a pond restoration about 15 years ago. We're looking at managing erosion on our hillsides. We'll probably be doing in the coming year some native plantings along the creek bank. We're looking at places where we can add more shrubbery, just to provide, continued support for the wildlife that lives at Elmwood Cemetery. And I think you may see farther down the line opportunities for us to use our landscape for education. We might have a native plant garden where people can come and learn about the different species that are part of Michigan's really, diverse and beautiful ecosystem. We might have, we do a lot of tree tours already, but that's something that we could certainly expand in the future. Elmwood is a learning ground for people who want to do, even things like forestry training or things like that. So we're kind of exploring lots of different ways to use Elmwood as, to activate the space as a learning ground as well as a place of recreation and exploration.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to keep tabs on what Elmwood is doing because
sure.
It sounds like y'all got a lot of ideas for how to
Many
really
ideas.
reinvent that space. Yeah, it's awesome. Amy Elliott Bragg is the director of the Historic Elmwood Foundation. This weekend is Elmwood Alight. Well, they'll be putting links and lights up around the cemetery. We'll have links in our website for you to go and get information about the place and to get tickets for the Elmwood Alight event. Go to wdet.org/metro to see those things. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us.
Thanks so much. It was great.
That'll do it for the Metro today. The show is hosted by Robert Vincent and myself. It's also hosted by Tia Graham. It's produced by Sam Corey, myself again, and Jack Philbrand. Our engineer is Nate Bender. Music is by Sam Bobian, and our senior producer is David Lyons. The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.